What screams, I make terrible financial decisions. In college, I was always behind on my rent because I would spend all of my money on weed and Italian cheese bread from Little Caesars. I would get super baked, get the munchies, and order an Italian cheese bread. This was a daily thing for years, and I eventually got evicted. I must have spent close to $50,000 on weed and Italian cheese bread by my sophomore year. Anyways, that's not my answer. My sister owns a Coach purse. Treating the limit on their credit card as money they have. They have a $5,000 limit on a new card, and immediately think what they could buy with $5,000. And opening a new credit card when they run out of that $5,000. I used to be a cashier at a store which had their own credit card that can only be used at that store. Most of the credit applications I processed were either denied or given very low credit limits, because those cards attract people with the worst financial decisions. Asking your friends on Facebook for $250 to pay your bills, then post pictures the next day of you at the movie theater with $40 of snacks. I have a friend who asks to borrow more than she actually needs, so that she can still go out and party. For example, she may only need $200, but will ask for $300 so that she has an extra $100 to buy booze and party with. Edit. A lot of you are asking if she pays back. She has always paid me back, not sure about the many others, but wouldn't be surprised, but not when she says she will. It took her nearly 3 months. 3 months after the date she told me she would be able to pay me back $100. I've also witnessed her borrow money from someone to pay back someone else. I have reason to believe that she doesn't pay some of her family back, like her mom or brother, because they always give it to her no matter what. She always borrows money from people. It's a regular, weekly thing for her. Setting up a GoFundMe account to get their Facebook friends to pay for their wedding, instead of opting for a simpler wedding, or having a longer engagement, or eloping now and having the big party later. While still going out to dinner every other night, and taking expensive trips. I used to work at GameStop. I had a customer that bought a PlayStation because a particular exclusive game came out for it, then would trade the system and game in to buy an Xbox when a new exclusive for it came out about a month later, and would go back and forth trading the respective consoles and games in every few months. I tried to convince him to just own each system and buy the games for each when they release, because he was losing so much money doing what he was doing. His response was that he couldn't afford to buy both at the same time. I didn't have the brightest customers. I worked at a store called Vintage Stock. It's a lot like GameStop. We had people like that for us too. We were in the same strip center as a GameStop, and we paid out less cash than they did. A guy came in saying he was playing our system by buying our cheap shit and selling it to GameStop. Like buying a used PS4 from us for like $300 and selling it to GameStop for like $100, instead of to us for $80. Like you didn't make $20, you spent $200. What the duck? In Western Australia it looks like this. Get laid off by mining company that was initially paying you well, specifically because it isn't a secure position. But never mind that, already taken out a $600,000 plus loan on a house, a $80,000 loan on a sick V8 Commodore, plus another $10,000 putting in performance cams and a straight through exhaust, so you can pull mad skids. This is all on the justification that I'll be able to smash these loans out in a couple years on this salary. Duck. What to do now? What's that? Tickets to Bali are $300 return? Better take the family for a booze-fueled cheap shit buying bonanza. It's fine, we'll just remortgage the house. Dead ducking easy. Rent a center. Heard a co-worker talking about their new bong, and she showed me a picture of it on a table with burn marks. I asked why it was so burnt, and she said, rent a center's on my ass cause I haven't paid yet, but I don't want to. I shouldn't have to pay for a burnt table. I replied, why would they even rent it to you like that? She says, well they are assholes. I told them I burned it, and they won't even give me a discount or anything. They want more. This bitch's new bong cost more than a table I now own off Craigslist. And she's $200 in debt for a table she can't even keep. I still think about that interaction maybe twice a week. Edit. Clarified that I didn't buy the table off of her. I used to know a guy who was renowned for making bad decisions in general. To be fair, he was funny and had a heart of gold. He just wasn't a logical thinker. He never had any savings. He was always buying his girlfriend of the month pretty expensive things, and always mooching off his mom. One of the more flawed decisions that has always stuck with me was when his car broke down. It was a piece of junk, so it was bound to happen, no biggie. He was feeling pretty blue because of it, as well as a collection of other things that had happened around the same time, largely through his own choices. So he decided that in order to finally become a winner, he needed to look and feel like a winner. And do you know what makes you look and feel like a winner? Owning a brand new Chrysler. He was so excited about it, he could feel good things coming his way already. He'd picked the one he wanted, 70,000 Australian dollars. He'd spoken to the dealer and organized when he was going to come in and do the paperwork. Everything was looking great for him. Then when he went to the dealership to sort it all out, it turned out that he hadn't been in his current job for long enough, so the loan/finance, which he elected to do through the dealership, couldn't be approved. He came back looking pretty defeated, but, in my opinion, being declined that loan was one of the luckiest things to ever happen to him. This man should not be in charge of his own money. Eating out for lunch every single day and complaining about how poor/broke you are. No shit, Sandra, was that peanut and chicken kale salad with a side of pasta and extra bakery treat really worth it? When they buy a large, fancy boat, but can't afford the marina fees and upkeep expenses to maintain it. Or a $100 depth finder so they don't run the mother ducker aground. People who also buy a $1 million yacht and buy the cheapest equipment for it because they really can't afford a ducking yacht, period. I work in the marine industry. In my part of the world, it's the newly hired on the oil rigs, when the market is booming. Go out buy a truck with a $1,000 monthly payment, then buy a house with a $3,000 monthly payment. Then when the market drops, they lose it all, and their credit ends up ruined. So it's harder to find a decent car/place to live. An old friend of mine, we'll call him friend A, was in a rough place. He had a job but couldn't really afford to get out of the slump he was in, living paycheck to paycheck, so my other friend, friend B, who owned a house, offered to let him stay for free for a few months. All friend A had to do was pay the internet bill, $70 per month. Easy enough, right? Well, friend A decided that since he no longer had expenses, he would just quit his job and play friend B's Xbox all day long and join a band. Lo and behold, friend A ran out of money eventually. Now he owed friend B the internet bill and simply couldn't pay it. Instead of getting a job and paying it, friend A stole friend B's Xbox and pawned it, then used the money to pay friend B the internet bill. How he ever thought it would work, who knows? But that's the definition of terrible financial decisions. We don't talk to friend A anymore. Edit. Well, this blew up. Figured I was late to the party, but I suppose not. An addition to the story is that about a year later, friend A sent me a text begging me to help out his family, because it was summer in Texas and their AC went out. I had known the whole family most of my life, so I loaned him my spare window AC unit. I knew what would happen, but I wasn't using it, and they needed it. Never saw it again, and that was the last contact I ever had with him. I know someone who uses Rent-A-Center. I can't believe it's legal. He's paying like $50 a month for the last 3 years for a PS4, and another $100 a month, same time frame, for a TV that's no more than $800 if he bought it. But he keeps paying for it. He could have bought multiple TVs and PS4s in this time frame. He recently posted on social media, wanted people's opinions on if it's worth it. Questioning you on savings. When you let a friend know how much you have saved, and they ask why you aren't spending more. Because if I spent it I wouldn't have any saved. That's how saving ducking works. Recently got in an argument with a friend about that. They accidentally saw my bank statement. My fault, I forgot to put it away before they came to my friend. Since they discovered what I have in saving, they always go back to it when I refuse an activity because I find it too expensive. I'm saving to pay driving lessons. and then a new car. To me, this money isn't mine, it's the car dealer and driver instructors, so I can't spend it. I even tried to explain it to them that it's to pay for future debts, like credits in reverse, because sometimes weird stuff works. They still don't understand the concept. Hehe. I had a friend see a $401,000 statement I didn't realize I hadn't filed, then proceed to ask me the following week to loan her money to start a small business. I suggested she speak with her own $401,000 administrator about borrowing from her own $401,000. She didn't have one. She couldn't get a loan from a bank because she had no collateral and absolutely putrid credit. But she somehow thought I would mercifully hand over my retirement savings because I know her. Complaining on Facebook that you can't afford the $200 it will take to cover your kids' school supplies this year, but also posting a daily pic of your Starbucks drink. This might get ranty because I just need to vent it out. One of my colleagues is probably the nicest man on the planet. He's kind, considerate and loyal. You couldn't write a movie script for a better person. No Rhodes Scholar, but very hardworking and liked by everyone. Almost every person in his life takes horrendous advantage of him. I can tell that he deeply fears being rejected by his loved ones and craves their approval and acceptance, but it has crossed a line. They have a joint income of over $150,000, and yet are circling the drain in debt and can barely pay any bills. They live in credit. His wife is usually a decent person, but when she says jump, he asks how high. This has resulted in numerous luxury shopping trips, her mother moving in and being a complete leech on their lives, vacations, and they just had to buy 2 brand new vehicles last year, with all the bells and whistles. They can barely pay the mortgage, and the house is a mid-sized fixed-upper. At least every week or two he comes in, and I force out of him the latest thing they spent way too much money on. Almost everything is on pay installments, even their utility bills. He pays for 5 cell phones. He usually can't drive his truck because there is no gas in it. In the summer we have barbecues every week for about $3 to $5. Hot dogs are cheaper than burgers, and there are times he doesn't have the $3. A 45-year-old man with a 6-figure income doesn't have $3 2 days after payday. Thankfully his kids are clueless that there is a problem, as it should be. They are kids and don't need adult problems. They get whatever they need for school. My concern is that one day the bubble will burst. Repo companies will come in. Creditors are calling. They are precariously close to the edge at all times. All I can do is encourage him to get therapy and learn to say no. But I can't force it. So I worked at a grocery store for 8 years, and the one thing I saw a lot of unfortunately was people putting food back for cigarettes when they have kids. We didn't sell lottery tickets or alcohol, but other stores in town did, and heard the same stories. A guy that I worked with sold his phone to pay his rent. He got like $40 for it. Spent the next month without a phone, unable to do business properly because he didn't have a way for people to contact him. Told me that he was short on rent/living check to check every month. Later told me he plans on taking out a $4,000 loan. $2,000 of it were to buy an old car he liked, and the other $2,000 was to revamp it. Decided he wanted to start to breed pit bulls, so paid $300 for a pit bull that then didn't mate with his female, and was later run over. Decided to buy 2 Indian ringnecks, birds, because he wanted a pet, then had to buy proper cage and toys, and has to now buy bird food and do generally upkeep on them. He later sold one to cover his rent. Told me multiple stories about how whenever he came upon some extra cash, he'd spend it by the next day. He was proud of this too. He told me how he once got a $100 from a family member, and then used it within the same night to have a steak dinner and go out for desserts afterwards. When customers would leave him tips, he'd use it to buy takeout food that night. He bought a cat. When he eventually got a phone he bought one for about $500. That's more than his paycheck. Told me he once wanted to give his wife money, but she told to keep it because she didn't want to spend it, so he literally threw it away. Bought a better fish,